A quick 10-second summary of what is about to come. Have all your stuff in one or two locations, digital, physical, whatever floats your boat. If it's digital, use something like Onenote. If it's physical, keep copies of your previous sessions. Have your bookmarks and everything in your browser all in one location so it's easy for you to find and you don't have to think or worry about it. Was that 10 seconds? Maybe closer to 15, 20. Either way, this is Sebastian's Cauldron. I am Sebastian, and today we are going to be looking at what is in my DM folder, binder, toolkit, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people have different names, different methods. Some will have folders, some will have binders, some will go digital and they'll have everything on their PC, Mac, laptop, desktop, however it is that you want to run it. I've done a few different things in the past. We're going to look at two different ways that I've been organizing my stuff, considering earlier in the year, obviously we could play in person and I was using physical printed out notes and everything like that. And now during COVID quarantine, we've been playing over on Roll20, so I have been using my computer, which is also really great. So let's take a look. So here we have my physical organizational tools. So quick story time for those of you who've watched my campaign summary. You would have known that I had two campaigns that I was doing at the start of this year. One of them was the Chain of Calidor and the other is the Ascension of Ajax, of which Ascension is currently the one that is still running. During those periods, I was running two games simultaneously. I needed to have my stuff organized in such a way that I knew exactly where one game and all of its notes were and where another one was so I wouldn't get mixed up. It didn't help that these are all set in my sort of homebrew setting, and so a lot of locations were mirrored, a lot of characters were making cameos, so one group would meet this dwarven tailor Kumtor, and then the other group would hear of this dwarven tailor who was up and coming and doing some really interesting and innovative stuff, who was called Grimtor. Amazing. Now the folders themselves are, these are Aquadrop folders. They've got sleeves so you can print stuff out and you can put them in. I think I stole these from my sister actually. I mean, she doesn't live at home anymore so she wouldn't use them. So if you're watching, thanks. These have been really great. We'll take a quick look at this one. This is for the chain. I've got the year and everything for when it's run. This is sort of a habit of mine that I developed. I've actually got, where is it? My DM notebook where I keep notes and everything, initiative tracking and all of that stuff. And I've got the list of campaigns. I think that should be close enough to see. So you can see I've run a few things. All of them have unfortunately finished without a real satisfying conclusion. But Ascension's going to finish. We're going to get to level 20. It's going to be great. So in this folder, the first couple of things that I have are notebooks. We would tend to play at my house. It's easier for the DM to host, in my opinion, so it's easier for me to keep the notebooks here to make sure the players will always have access to them, and if they ever needed to be reminded of things, I could just take some photos of what they've written and send that to them over Facebook or something. From there, we've got the session notes. You can see we're up to session 8. They were about to complete a siege. Their castle that they had was about to be attacked by a large human and gnoll army. From there, we have some notes on the city. They're in the city of Torringry at the moment, so I had those there with all of the locations and NPCs, little plot hooks that they had. We also have, of course, their character sheets and retainers. We're using Matt Colville's Strongholds and Followers, so we've got the retainers system and everything, which is really great, especially considering they are modeling a mercenary company. It would make sense that there would be junior officers and everything that would have similar skills but not quite the full class abilities of the players, and it's also just good to have sort of extra people around to attack and do things during combat. Looking through more, we've got more character sheets. That was a very player death heavy campaign, so we've got quite a few extra ones. And then we have our first session notes. So this is the very first session that I did. It was quite railroaded, I think as most campaign starts are. it's easiest to sort of railroad to get things going. I think it's really interesting to look back at old notes and everything. I'm sort of looking now, and of course, like I said, it's extremely railroaded. I was also at this point in time, I was printing out my stat blocks and using those instead of using D&D Beyond, which is what I use now, which we'll talk about in just a second. There's similar notes in the Ascension folder. The one key difference being I have these lists of names, which I think is probably my number one favorite thing that I have in my DM toolkit. Because coming up with names is really difficult. I really struggle. I've mentioned this before. So having a list of names, and this is sorted by human, first names, last names, dragonborn, dwarf, elf, halfling, tiefling. It's also got some ship names, which can also be good for taverns, although you should remember that our amazing life hack for tavern names, adjective, animal, green chicken. It's a great tavern. Of course, in addition to my printed notes and other sort of DM aids, I would have a DM screen, which folds out like that, helps you to hide notes, hide roles, and all sorts of other things, and it gives you a handy surface to put some easy reminders for you. So if we fold it out, you can probably get the full thing in there, but I've got quite a few fun things in here. One of my players, of course, is a wild magic sorcerer, so I've got a note to remind me for wild magic and also for concentration checks, because he's got a lot of concentration spells. We've got all of the conditions, which is really handy because having those memorized is nearly impossible. Something else which is really great to have is I have this little cheat sheet for my players. Of course, since my fourth player has joined, we haven't been using the DM screen, so I haven't added it. But this is really handy just to have their name, their race, their background, what their AC is, their hit points, and their ability scores, so that I can know if I'm playing an intelligent enemy, I'm probably not going to target the gunslinger with some sort of dexterity save because they're going to be extremely high, nor am I going to target the cleric with a wisdom save. That just doesn't make sense. And then of course we've got a list of the equipment, the weapons and armor and their damage, just in case I need to quickly improvise an NPC and I'm thinking, oh, longsword makes sense, well, how much damage does that do again? I can just look right here. Having these sort of quick reference tables and sort of reminders can be really great if you're not good at Googling, if you're not sure what to Google, or if you just don't want to spend the time Googling. And of course, speaking of Googling, the other thing I use is my laptop. I think this is the first time that I've gotten it out since March, I think, because, well, I haven't had the need to use it. But this is what I would typically use. I would have my OneNote open, which is, oh, that's bright. I would have OneNote open, which I think is the best digital tool that a DM can use. I know I've tried using things like Word documents, and then I would have separate Word documents for, this is the city document, and this is the lore document, and this is the session document, and I found that was fine, but I was tending to do the sort of organization that OneNote has built into it, so I figured, why not go into there? We'll talk quickly through my OneNote. So I have organized things into sections and subsections and more subsections and even more. I love sections. It's fantastic. I've got, so at the very top, not tied to any specific campaign, I have a folder for random gen in case I need to randomly generate some stuff, whether it's trinkets, low-level magic items, just general inspiration, shop catalogs for prices if I don't want to get out the player's handbook, warm-up questions, which is something we'll talk about in another video, but that's a really great way to get the session started. I've got other helpful guides like a sneak attack diagram, which is really great if you have a rogue and you're not 100% certain of the rules, or you don't have the sneak attack blocks memorized, because it can be quite confusing, and then especially if you're an inquisitive or if you're a swashbuckler, then there's even more extra conditions. I've got some cool maps that I've found which can be fun. Music, which is incredibly important, I think, in setting the mood, setting the tone, and really getting the players into these sort of ambience of, you know, we're playing this heroic fantasy game where we're playing this dark, gritty sort of campaign. Of course, I've got some one-shot notes, things that don't require many pages, that don't necessarily fit into a campaign. From there we have our campaign-specific things. We can see we have the Ascension folder. I've got old campaigns, which is, like I said, I like keeping my old notes. I really like looking back to my very first set of notes from when I did Lost Mines of Phandelver from the starter set, and my god, it was horrible. Big blocks of text, and it was not good. But I've also got some scrapped stuff, some scrapped encounters, because you'll never know when an encounter could be useful. Ascension itself has several subsections. We've got the cast of characters, just so I keep track of who's playing what. We have some character notes, just things that I might either forget or things that might be important, but I don't necessarily want to put them onto a character sheet. Future ideas, which is of course important, knowing sort of events that are going to happen ahead or any sort of secrets that you have in the campaign that haven't yet been revealed yet. As I've mentioned, one of my players is a wild magic sorcerer, and the player's handbook wild magic table is a bit lackluster, so we're using a homebrew D100 wild magic table, so I have that here as well. And of course we have some more tools for improvising stuff. I have here a, I think this is a Quora answer about improvising damage, which was from the Angry GM. I'll put a link to that down in the description, of course. Moving further down, we have some adventure-specific notes. So the current one that is being run is the Werewolves in Ergon. I've scrapped out the other two because they have obviously spoilers in the title. And so looking in here, we have general notes and ideas, factions, because this is quite a politics-heavy sort of thing. There are many different factions, many moving parts that I need to keep track of, and then the specific session tabs. So that's information, stuff that I'm assuming that they are going to be doing in that session, but of course, you never know what the hell your players are going to do. If you can't tell, I really love using OneNote. It is super powerful. It is really great at organizing. It has really great link functions as well. You can link to other OneNote pages or to just websites or documents on your computer, which can be really handy. I've mentioned before that I also use D&D Beyond, which is another really great digital resource. I have a lot of the books on there, and so I'm able to gain access to the stat blocks and everything, which then have their own hyperlinks to spells, conditions, that sort of stuff, which is super handy. It makes my job a lot easier, it makes any DM's job a lot easier when you can easily and quickly access the information you need, rather than, you know, having to flick through the book to find, oh, where's Appendix A, there's conditions, oh, I've got it now. It gets so annoying. Aside from notes, other physical aids that can be really helpful. Of course, you can see my miniatures, which are sort of scattered throughout the bookshelf. My favorite one, which I'm gonna plug, my friend painted an Umber Hulk for me, which is just absolutely gorgeous. He's got an Instagram, Spearhead Crafts. I'll put a link to that as well. You can check it out, but he is slowly going to paint all of these for me because I am not a painter. It is not something I am good at. I've tried doing it. It hasn't turned out, but he does a great job, so check out his stuff. It's really cool. Other things that you can use, of course, battle mats. Mine are all put away at the moment. I'm not going to grab them out, but they're essentially large bits of paper or sort of like whiteboard material that have a grid on them, which can be really great. That's another video that we'll have to do at some point. And other things which can be really great. Dice, of course, very handy. A speaker can be really great. This is extremely dusty. I haven't used this thing, and I used to use this like almost every day at my old work, and now it sits on the carpet and it's all dusty. But again, like I mentioned, music, ambience, there is a lot of great ambient stuff. I'll put some links to some great ambience that I use. There's of course royalty-free music, or just like music from video games. I'm not a streamer or anything, so I don't need to worry about you know, copyright material. I use a lot of the Witcher soundtrack, which is really cool. A lot of the Elder Scrolls stuff, which is great fun. as I said at the beginning, I think the most important thing is having all of your stuff in one location. Whether you're doing like me and you have a physical folder with your printed notes, if you have a OneNote or a file folder of Word documents, or if you're using something like Evernote or Scrivener, there's a lot of really great writing programs that I've not personally used, but I've heard of that can be really good, like Scrivener and everything. Having all of your stuff organized in one spot is going to make it so much easier for you to access. If you're using Spotify for music, then having playlists can be great. If you're using YouTube, then there are video playlists and everything, and just having everything together is going to make your life a lot easier. So that's the video, that's the stuff I use when I'm DMing. I would highly recommend the digital route, just purely because you have access to so much more so quickly. You don't need to flick through papers or anything. I do love the feel of physical books. Of course, you can see all of my books here, but when I'm running the game, when my brain is going haywire and everything, it is much easier for me to put a search into D&D Beyond or just to Google something rather than trying to flick through a book. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you're starting to DM and you're getting your DM folder ready, let me know in the comments below what you're doing, what you're using. You guys can do all the usual YouTube stuff. You can like it, you can favorite. Remember when you could favorite videos? That was ages ago. Put it into a playlist, email it to your grandma or something. I think someone else says that, I'm not sure. But I will see you guys some other time.